Welcome back to episode 5 of Job Searching. So, this is going to be a little bit of a mixture of the job searching videos I've done in the past, along with the let's talk about my jobs sort of thing, but I figured I'll just stick them all in one video. This month has been pretty chaotic as far as applying for jobs. It was toward the end of September, beginning of October, that I found out Lyft was cutting our pay again, and that was what prompted me to really start applying for jobs for the first time, really, for a long time. I'd been applying for things as they came up. I had a few people who reached out to me, and I would follow up with those leads, but I wasn't actively looking. And that was when I found that I was going to have to replace my full time job because at this point, Lyft is paying practically nothing. In fact, I had my Lyft payday yesterday, and I literally made nothing for the week. So it's like I have a part time job that was supposed to supplement my full time job, but in the meantime, my full time job has just literally fallen apart. So I was lucky that for the last 2 weeks prior to this past week, they did give me re engagement bonuses, so I made more from Lyft than I normally would this month. But it really didn't help as far as my numbers. Quite frankly, I've just recruited myself out of a job. There's nobody else here that doesn't drive for Lyft. Who, if they drive for Uber, they drive for Lyft too. There's no one left that only drives for Uber, and that's my target market. So, I do find myself in the place where I have to really aggressively be applying for a full-time job. But in the meantime, I am just trying to better myself and my situation any way I can. So I have been applying for a few things, and in my last video, Job Searching 4, which I'll link up above, there was a guy that I interviewed with who really liked me, who promised me the world basically, who said that he would keep in touch with me and would be able to give me a job eventually. It just might be a few months down the road. Well, I kept in contact with him, and he did contact me a couple times as well. But after Lyft announced that they were cutting our pay again, I contacted him and basically said, hey, I need something right away. Can I do this part-time, or what can we do? And I never got a definitive answer on that. But I did get his boss emailed me about a different position probably about a week later. Now, I am going to tell you guys about that interview, but I'm probably going to tell you that last because honestly, I'm so confused about what's going on with that interview process. So that's probably going to be my last story in this. But other than that, I have gotten calls for 2 other jobs. First is the one that I took, so I should tell you guys about that. I am replacing my part-time job at Target with a part-time job at Whole Foods. And as of November 1st of this year, Whole Foods will be at $15 an hour. I started off at 11 at Target, and I make 12 now. So it's going to be an increase of $3 per hour, which will be a very helpful increase in pay if, and this is a big if, I get the same consistent number of hours. Now, the reason that that's such a big if is that at Target, they have tons of hours to give away. You can work whatever you want. They'd work you 100 hours a week. Not really, because they don't want to pay overtime, but they will work you literally 40 hours exactly every week and give that to everyone. That's the way they'd prefer to have it. But at Whole Foods, it's set up completely differently. Basically, what it is that they told me, and there are some discrepancies about this, that everyone starts at part-time. However, the store I got hired at starts at part-time, but there was a store here in the same city hiring for full-time. I applied for both positions. The full-time position did not call me. I heard nothing, even after following up with them. So that doesn't seem to be true. Maybe it's just this store that does it like this. But they consider going above 20 hours or being full-time to be a promotion. Like, you have to work there and like prove yourself first before they will offer that to you. And I was told it would take at least a month to get to that review process. Now, I was told that part-time is 0 to 19 hours a week, which I have consistently 18 to 20 hours at Target. So if I do get 18 to 19 hours at Whole Foods at the increased rate, that'll be great, right? I'll be fine with that. But that might not happen. It just, basically depends on how many hours they decide to give me. And until I start seeing the schedules and what they're like, I have no clue what I'm getting myself into. So it might be good or it might be really bad. Now, on top of that, there is a lot of inconsistency in what I've been told about the part-time position, because I keep being told by one manager that it's 0 to 19. One place in the paperwork, I've already gone to my orientation, and one place in the paperwork said like 9 to 19 hours a week. So does that mean you're guaranteed 9 hours a week? I'm not sure. And another one said 10 or 11 to 19. So again, what is the bottom that I can expect here? So on top of that, there are some other questions about Whole Foods too. It's really just hard to plan this out. I'm just going to hope for the best and hope I can get in there. The other thing that kind of bothers me about it is that I was told that I could go ahead, that I could pick up hours. Basically, say I was scheduled 15 hours and I wanted more, that they have this like swap board where you can do that. But then after I had actually put my notice in at Target and I was doing orientation at Whole Foods, I was basically told at that point, well, yes, you can pick up hours, but you're all broken up into different teams, and then you would be working outside your team with other people you don't know if you do this, so you'd have to wait until after a training period, and even then it's frowned upon. So, and then you also, if you pick up hours, you can't ever go over 19 hours unless you are what's called part-time plus, which are the people who consistently get guaranteed 20 hours and can go up to 30 hours. Really confusing, very conflicting information. I don't know what's actually going to happen in practice, but hopefully this is a good move. Now, I mentioned that I put in my notice at Target, and this, of course, and I promise you guys, while I don't have that much to complain about Target, anything related to HR is a nightmare there, and that has been consistently my problem from the very beginning of being there, and once again it is. I put in my notice and they basically have just chosen to ignore it. Now, I did put it in electronically. I have a picture of the confirmation page. For some reason, on the app that we use, which is usually more accurate than the actual schedule that's posted in the store, it shows that I'm not scheduled any shifts after November 3rd, although my last day is supposed to be November 7th. And I thought they were just being spiteful and not scheduling me for the last week of my notice. But then when I went into the store yesterday, in fact, there is a schedule there for the following week, and I'm scheduled. So I don't know what's going on with that. I do have a couple other problems with my schedule too, which again, after I leave, I'll address in a video. Because as you guys sort of know, that's been a consistent problem, but it's not just them trying to schedule me, full-time hours every week. There are other problems with it too. And I know it's going to be a confrontation whenever I do have to send the HR person an email and be like, hey, I put in my thing, I'm not supposed to be scheduled these days, but I'll address that when I come to it. Now, two other things. Working for America. That is a place that I've applied to in the past. They've called me in the past, and I've been hesitant to take it up because it has terrible reviews on Glassdoor. And the second reason that I was hesitant is it starts at $12.75 an hour, and you have to be there 90 days before you go to full-time. Or not full-time, but to the $15 an hour wage. Now, I think I mentioned in my last video something about that, and that because they were trying to ramp up for the election, that I didn't know. I've heard they have massive layoffs after the election season. So I'm like, well, am I going to quit one job and then go and take this job and work there a week or two and then get laid off? I think that's a possibility. But they did call me out of the blue a few days ago, and they told me about a different position than the ones before. And this one starts out at 15 an hour and stays there. And they said up until the election, they need people to work on the weekends too, and that's overtime pay at 22.50 an hour. I'm like, cool, let's do that. But when I called them back and I left a voicemail, of course they've never called me back about it. So I'm very unsure about that. I feel like as soon as I start, they'd lay me off. I feel like even though the position has a different title than the ones that are reviewed online that have terrible reviews, I feel like it might be still the same thing, and they've just changed the title of it. Very unsure about that. Now, there's, I think, one main other thing here, and that is, I have this place that I interviewed with. So, as I said before, back in Job Searching 4, I interviewed with the first guy, and then his boss called me in to interview about a week later. I want to get your guys' opinions about this because, man, I'm befuddled. So, backstory on this. This guy called me about a year ago, a little more than a year ago. He had an assistant manager position in Hilliard that he wanted to fill. And he called me in. I went through multiple interviews with him. And by the time that I got to the in-person interview with him, who was the director of the company, the position had changed from an assistant property manager to a leasing consultant, and from Hilliard to Powell. Well, I knew my car wasn't in good shape, and in fact, a month later it would blow up. So it's a good thing I didn't take that job in Powell. That's forever away. And the wage just kept dropping. And, I crunched the numbers and I just told him this is not going to work for me. Like, I just can't do it for this price. And anyway, what I think is most telling about the company is that after putting me through all of that and so many emails back and forth and multiple interviews, just ghosted me. Which, I know that's the industry standard, but it still says a lot about your professionalism as a company. Especially if you've got it down to one or maybe two candidates and you can't even bother to reply to them. But more so than that, to more than a year later, reach out of the blue and bring somebody in and build them up and get them excited and tell them, hey, we want you to never be able or never have to work part-time retail ever again. We're going to pay you, more than what's fair. We're going to, basically make all of your financial problems go away and build you up like you're the best candidate. And what's crazy about this is this guy, when I came into the interview, he's like, yeah, I remember you from a year ago and I always liked you and I like you now and that's why I called you back in. And I was thinking, well, then, you couldn't even respect me enough to send me a rejection email last year? I didn't say that, but I thought it. And so then he calls me back in, and guys, this interview was the biggest waste of my time. And this is the part that I want your opinion about. I actually filmed a video right after I got home from the interview. I'm not going to put it up. It's really long, but it goes over everything we talked about and every question that he had. And it messed with my mind because the things that he was saying didn't make sense. And let me just give you the highlights. So he calls me in, tells me all that about how, he remembered me and I was such an amazing candidate. And Now, I had specifically told the first interviewer that I wanted an assistant property manager position because I didn't feel ready for a property manager position. So, of course, then the boss calls me in and he tells me, well, this is a property manager position. And so I tell him again, I don't feel prepared for this. This is, I explained this to James, who's the other guy that interviewed me. This is just something, I've been out of the industry for a year. I've been out of the assistant property manager role for 3 years, and I had more to learn in that role anyhow. I want to do that and know that I am capable and confident in what I'm doing before I step into a property manager role. And I think that that's the responsible way to handle this as a job candidate and how the employer should be looking at it too. But instead, this guy tells me, he goes on a little bit and then comes back to it and he's like, well, I could have made all your money problems gone away, but you just turned down a job. And I said, well, yeah, because that's not going to be a good fit. Like, I'm not going to be able to do the work that you want me to do, and you're not going to be happy with my performance, and I'm going to be frustrated and unhappy, and that's just not a position I'm going to put either one of us in. And so he comes back to me and says, yes, I understand that. But then he proceeds to say that if it were him in that position, that he would have just lied his way into the role, faked being confident, and just taken the highest position and highest pay that he could get, regardless of whether he felt he could do the job. And I'm just sitting there like, what? Like, I'm completely dumbfounded. And so then he starts getting on me, even though he has told me I'm this amazing candidate. And then he starts going on about, like, how he has absolutely no doubt that I could perform the position and that he, how great my work ethic is and all this stuff. But then he goes back to my resume and he starts tearing me apart and is like, well, why did you, like, it, like, from a perspective of somebody who interviews and has all these job candidates, like, it looks like you're not going to stay here, you're going to job hop, and like, why did you go to this position and this position? And then, and I kind of told him my summary of stuff, which I'd gone over with him before a year prior, and he was just acting like I was the worst candidate ever. And then it was like, after I explained all of that to him, he's like, well, I don't know what to say. He's like, I don't believe you. And I was like, well, what don't you believe? And he's like, well, I think that you're the problem in all of this. And I said, well, what makes you think that? And he's like, well, because, you got all these places that you worked at, some for a shorter period of time, and, you have a problem with every place. And I was like, well, yeah, I do. Most of them. There's a couple I don't, but I was like, that part is true. I was like, but here's the thing. I just told you the reasons that I left all these places. So I was like, are you going to do those things? Would you not pay me? Would you hire me for a temporary position and have me move to a different city, lying to me to tell me that it's a permanent position? Would you do those things? Because those are the reasons that I left those jobs. They weren't anything to do with my work or anything like that. It was that it was treatment and it was deception in, the job interview process. I was like, would you do those? Are you going to pay me for the work that I do? And he's like, yes, absolutely. We're not here to screw you over. And I was like, so then it wouldn't be a problem, right? Like, that's been the issue. So then he comes out and he's like, well, I don't believe you that it's been the employer. He's like, what I do believe is that you've had consistently bad managers. Now, I'm not sure I agree with that. And I'm not sure I agree that there's a difference with whether the problem was with the company in the past or my manager, because I see the manager as part of the company. And I'm not really sure what the significance is in trying to separate that out. But even so, I don't think it matters because this guy, after offering me the job and after berating me for turning down the job because I didn't feel ready for it, then goes on this tangent about how he's like, well, I wouldn't offer you a job anyway. I just don't think you're prepared for it. Which, again, is what I just told him, and he argued with me and said that I was, and that I was wrong. And now he's telling me that I was right, but I'm somehow also wrong. Guys, I am so confused. So then he got into this mode where he was trying to be like this, trying to give me like fatherly advice, even though he's probably my age. And he was like, I was told that by a mentor, I was almost at the point of getting fired from this job, and he told me to look inside myself and ask myself what happy looked like to me, or what right looked like to me. And at that point, I was just like, yes, dude. Like, this is what I'm talking about. This introspection and planning, this is what I do. And so, like, I got, like, in this really intense conversation with him, and I was like, yeah, man. I was like, back in 2010, this is what I did. I have known for... And then 5 years ago was when I knew I specifically wanted to be an assistant property manager. And I was like, I know, and I've been fighting for this whole time. I know exactly where I need and want to be, both in a career and monetarily, to be happy. And this is what I want. And he just looked at me like he was just a brick wall, and started repeating, you need to do this introspection and find out what right is for you. And I was like, okay, but I just told you that I've done that. Like, this is what I want to do. I've known that for years. I've been working for it. And no matter what I said, it was just like I wasn't saying anything to him. Nothing I said registered. And it was very frustrating, and we could not get past that. And then in addition to that, I know I'm forgetting something here, but at the end of the interview, he again stated, hey, you know what? I'm going to have positions opening up all the time. I'm going to keep you in mind because you're the best candidate we've ever had, and we're going to do all this. After walking out of that interview, I was so confused. I've never had to sit down and make a video for myself after an interview just to try to wrap my mind around what just happened. And quite honestly, I'm not interested in working for this company because I don't know what this guy's thing is that he has going on. I mean, he's a decently nice guy, but he obviously thinks that he's in a place that he's not in, where he has the answers to everything, and he just is not in the same reality as the rest of us. So it's just not... No, I'm not going to work for somebody like that, even if he does mean well. Now, other thing that I do want to say about this is that this company that he runs, and I've run into this interviewing a few other times, this company claims to be just absolutely dynamic in real estate and property management, and is completely changing the game and reinventing everything. And I've run into this before, not just in real estate, not just in property management, but a lot of times with these small companies and startups. And the truth is, there is absolutely nothing different about this company than any of the rest of them. I was trying to get the job, so I didn't ask him, but when he was harping on all of that, I just wanted to be like, well, what is it that sets you apart? Because there's not anything. I've read the reviews of the company online. I've read over their website. I'm familiar with several of the people that work there. There's nothing different about it. And again, I think that talking about that different place in reality that he's sitting, I think that is the same here. That he's just not on the same wavelength of everybody else. So that unfortunately is a dead end and led me on twice. So I'm certainly not going to let them do it a third time. So I'm done with that place. Now there are a few other places that I want to apply, and I am following up on the leads that you guys gave me. If you put anything in the comments about where I should apply or anything, I have done that. I'm just at this point trying to really replace the full-time job, and I'm probably still going to have to work at Whole Foods part-time, but the name of the game right now is increase income. Oh, and that reminds me. During the interview, this guy actually said to me, he's like, you know what? You can only cut things out of your budget to a certain point. You have to increase your income in order to really, be successful financially. Which I thought was an absolutely bizarre thing to say in an interview. So I don't know if he watches this channel or and if he does, I mean, my opinion stands. That's, I don't care if he knows what I think of him, but obviously I already said I'm not going to be working there. But it just seems so strange for an interviewer to bring that up. And between the first interviewer I had and then him, never had a company where they just, I don't know, they just tout how rich they're going to make you. But I will also say, when he was going on that tangent about how he would have lied his way into the position, and that's what I should have done too. He said that I should just work 80 hours a week until I just got it. I had him like, no, dude. Like, I understand, especially for a small company, why you would pay somebody on salary, because you can't always predict a budget or how many hours somebody's going to work. But if I'm taking a salaried position, which I'm already uncomfortable with, like, if you're telling me straight up that the expectation is for me to work 80 hours a week for 40 hours of pay, either you're going to pay me twice what I was expecting, or we're not doing this. So going into a property manager role, if you're paying me less than $90,000 a year, which is $45,000 at 40 hours a week, which is a kind of low end for a property manager. If you're not paying me a minimum of $90,000 plus bonuses per year, I'm not working 80 hours a week. So anyway, as you guys can tell, I'm frustrated about all this, but I wanted to get my experiences out there and just keep you guys caught up on what's going on. One major thing in particular that I do want to apply for is there is another job with Lyft, which is not recruiting, because obviously there are no leads right now, and that's my main problem, but it's been a cool company. So there is another position that they have here in Columbus I'm going to apply for, and hopefully with me being already in the company and having references within the company, it'll help me out. So anyway, guys, I am either going to have this up very late October or early in November, and tomorrow, as of me filming this, is October 31st. I will be filming the budget review video for October, and that will be up, I hope, on November 2nd, but don't hold me to that. It might be like the 5th or something. But I'm going to I'm going to try out the new Premiere feature and see how you guys like that. So it's not quite a live stream, but you'll have heads up when the video is going to go live, and I'll be responding to comments live during that as well. All right, guys, thanks for watching.